Hello and welcome to Gin with Gwyn. I'm Oliver Gwyn, and this is where I give you my off the cuff and unrehearsed thoughts on marketing data and philosophy. This week, we're talking about everybody's favourite thing, tax. Last year, it was widely reported that the UK government would be giving new powers to HMRC to raid your bank account and take funds from it if you had a sideline selling things on eBay, Vinted, or similar. And there was a big outcry about this, as you can imagine. A lot of people were saying it's completely wrong that they pay tax on an item and then they have to pay tax again. That it would basically eat into any small profit that they might make once eBay and others have taken their fee and postage and all of that kind of stuff. And just generally that it seemed a bit greedy and a bit big brother that they would have direct access to your bank account. And there was a lot of speculation at the time about a few things. One was that indirectly it might mean that there was more waste. If people can't be bothered to set up a business and register themselves, then they're just going to throw things away, and that will lead to more wastage and less people reusing and reloving their items. The other thing was just that, well, people will set up multiple bank accounts for different things so they can try and get away with fraud on there. Now, my personal thoughts on this at the time were just one, it's not really cool to avoid tax. It's not really a cool thing to do. In America, they seem to think it is, but in the UK, I don't think we think it's cool. It's not cool that you live in a society, you benefit from services, and you don't put towards that thing. I don't think that's right or good at all. But I also think that there are two things. There is the law and there is the spirit of the law. And obviously, people's fears were just that the spirit of the law would not be taken into account. So the spirit, obviously, was that it was trying to sort of punish people who have an entire business, an entire side business, and they're not registering with the tax person. They're avoiding tax. They're committing tax fraud. But the black and white of the law might just be simply that you sell some stuff on eBay and then suddenly you're a company and you have to pay tax on that, which is not really the same thing if you're just selling some stuff. Now, the good news about this story is it's completely fake. So HMRC put out a statement in December 2024 saying that there was a lot of misinformation circulating about new tax for people selling their unwanted clothes or children's toys, etc. online. This is not right. There is no new tax for online selling. What has changed is the way that online platforms that people use to sell goods and services report information to HMRC. Digital platforms must share data and some personal information for 2024 with HMRC by the end of January 2025. If you've sold at least 30 items or earned roughly £1,700 using platforms like eBay or Vinted, or provided paid-for services such as holiday rental through Airbnb or other websites, your platform provider will let you know that information has been shared with HMRC. And that's the important thing. Just because it's been shared with HMRC doesn't necessarily mean they're going to act on it and you're going to be taxed on it. And I guess the idea there is that it's not going to affect those people who are just doing a house clearance and they want to get rid of some items, which is good. I think that's right. But it is going to affect the people who they have a side business, they are making an amount of money, and they should be paying tax on that. I don't think that they necessarily need to go through the hassle of setting up a business or self-employment. I think that may be too far. But if there's a nice, easy way that HMRC can take the money that's owed on them and they're making money from it, and it stops tax fraud, I think that's a good thing. During the pandemic, a lot of people took on side hustles. Side hustle culture has become more normal to people. I think there's a lot of people who do make money and they don't report it. I think that's probably a problem. And it's only right and fair that tax should be paid fairly by everybody. Everybody should contribute to society. And so HMRC having those advanced powers to see who is a potential problem and who is not doing the right thing, I think is generally good. Having access to the bank accounts so that they can just take that money, I'm not so sure about that. I would like to think that if you give people fair warning that there will be some genuine mistakes in there, that people aren't doing it on purpose. Maybe they just kind of realize that, oh, actually I'm running a business just because they let out their spare room twice a month or something. Now, for me, when I think about starting a business and all those things, I do think it's a bit of a hassle. When I used to be self-employed, I used to play a drinking game whenever I had to do my self-assessment tax form, where every time I had to press the help button, I used to take a shot. I used to get very, very drunk doing that. Don't do that, people. Bad advice. Don't do that. But it's very confusing, and there's all these things about: are you a farmer, and do you do this, and if so, you can claim this. The tax system is not easy at all, and so a lot of people don't want to deal with it, and I don't really blame them on that. And I think it's a very solvable problem, because I think what a lot of people want is, technically these days, I think a lot of people set up a website, and technically at that point you are running a business, and it goes live and you're running a business from that point. What I think HMRC should do is make a bank account. Not that difficult to do. So a separate bank account, which means they don't have to go and raid people's bank accounts and all this kind of stuff, and maybe you're inadvertently affecting food on the table or anything like that. You create a separate bank account, and you automatically apply all the rules of tax within that. People put in money, they spend money. You can show them, hey, this is how much we're going to take, and everything could be done for you. No brainer. We're in an AI world where all of this stuff can be automated. We don't necessarily need accountings. It would stop people trying to use creative accounting to get around the problem. It would make it nice and easy, and it encourages entrepreneurship. And it could be offered through all of the banks, which would be a great new way of them getting business. So, just to recap this video, one, if you saw all these stories and you thought, hey, that doesn't seem really fair and it's going to lead to a lot of wastage, they're not true, which is a good thing. HMRC is not going to come after you if you're reselling some old toys on eBay, but they are going to come after you if you've got a side business and you're earning an amount of money that is taxable, which I think is right, fair. And the way that I would solve this problem and encourage people, if you've got a side business, I would make it as easy as possible. You've got to cut down the paperwork for self-assessment. You've got to cut down the paperwork for starting a company. It's too long, takes too much time in this country, and I can only assume that that's because all of the politicians are friends with bankers and accountants and all these kind of people who are just middlemen at the end of the day. I believe that HMRC is one of the more advanced digital services we have. They could launch a bank account very easily where everything could be done to you, and it solves the problem 100%. So those have been my thoughts on tax, everybody's favorite thing. Hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what you'd like me to talk about next week on Gin with Gwyn.